Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. All right. Texas. Greg Abbott is suffering some setbacks here. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that Texas must stop any work on its barrier, its floating barbed wire barrier, and move it to the riverbank, siding with a lower court decision that was made in December telling Texas to do that. Governor Abbott said he predicted that would be overturned in the appeals court, and he was wrong. Additionally, on Wednesday, a federal judge allowed U.S. border agents to continue cutting the razor wire that the state installed along the riverbank, despite Texas officials saying that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Texas has been asserting that parts of the Rio Grande are not subject to federal laws protecting navigable waters, but the judges said the lower court ruled correctly and sided with the Biden administration. For what it is, Abbott says we'll go to SCOTUS because, of course, this is the downside of having a 6-3 conservative part in the Supreme Court. These states just think that, what does it say about the Supreme? We're going to go to the Supreme Court. We've lost the federal case. We've lost the appeals case. So go to the Supreme Court because they'll rule with us. What they're telling you is that the Supreme Court is no longer apolitical. That's the message that's being put out there. This is my second Supreme Court reading today. Okay, but let's look at entertainment purposes only. Let's look at the ruling, this appeals court ruling regarding the floating barriers and the razor wire and such. What's going on with that, Texas? King of Cups. Well, it's the Biden administration coming in and basically showing compassion for people. You're not allowed to just, do whatever you want to in the river. Look at it. He's actually floating in the water. You don't get to do whatever you want in the water. There are federal rules guiding it, and you have to follow the federal rules. And they're laying down the law. It's pretty cut and dry. Funny. It impacts countries outside the U.S., in this case Mexico. But I think we're bringing an end to these shenanigans, this Greg Abbott plot. Yeah, they want to go to the Supreme Court. I don't think it's gonna make a hill of beans difference. You've lost in federal court and the appeals court ruled against you. This case is pretty much done. Because now you can have the sword be the razor wire, but because it's unjust. This, it's the black and white lettering of the law and such is such that Texas doesn't have a leg to stand on, or Greg Abbott doesn't have a leg to stand on this one. Yeah, they want to go to the Supreme Court because they think they can just ram it through in a partisan court, but the law's not on their side here. What a funny card. Temperance in the past. Again, this is... We've got more water here in cups. This is Texas... we've tolerated immigration. We've tolerated people trying to get into the country. And now there's like this toxicity that think of temperance as being reversed. We have this where we used to tolerate it before. Now all of a sudden, Greg Abbott and extremists in Texas are not tolerating it. And instead of detoxifying it, they're poisoning things with the floating barriers. It's just cruelty to people. And it's not legal. It's not moral or ethical either. So, celebrate. Look at all the cups here. We've had cups on all these things. Celebrate this victory. Again, another court case, another victory for decency, basically. Strong action. I'm hoping that, groups like the AFL-CIO and other groups that representing people's rights, are empowered by this decision going forward and keep fighting for the rights of people and just being decent. You're going to be fighting against money, though. Big money for whatever it's the funniest thing. Yeah. The wealthy people love the illegal immigrants because they like to have them work on their projects and pay them next to nothing so that they can make all the money. And then when you keep these people out, these folks can't make all the money. So there can even be political, financial pressure on Abbott too to let folks in because it helps the U.S. economy in a dirty, disgusting way. There's your dark money right there. The backroom. These guys might tell Abbott to back off because they want their workers that get paid under the table. For the court cases, if we're focusing on court case, will it go to the Supreme Court? Yeah, possibly. It's going to take some money here. Negotiations, deals being made. I don't think it goes to the Supreme Court. I think Abbott is talking bluster, but in the end of the day, financial donors don't want that. They want their backroom deals and under the table stuff. I think this dies. Right here. There's too much. It's almost like because Abbott has politicized it, this was never about stopping illegal immigration. This is about kicking down on people. Okay? Securing our borders and coming up with something really visible to show that you're protecting the borders. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one thing to say you're protecting the borders, but remember how the Republicans wanted the National Guard patrolling? Because it's a really visible thing. You see National Guard, you see soldiers walking around the border fences, even though there was nobody crossing over, or certainly there wasn't that huge wave or that the Republicans were saying were going to happen, the invasion on the southern border. They knew there was no border there. There was no invasion there. But you have the optics of the military going patrolling, and then people think, oh my God, the military's here. Maybe there really was going to be an invasion. And then when the invasion doesn't happen, it wasn't because there was no invasion at all. It's because your military was there to protect you, and it makes Greg Abbott look like he's a genius. That type of thing. His quick action thwarted the invasion. And I think what's happening here is that the wealthy donors who want their cheap labor, they're going to start talking to Abbott and saying, you've gotten your political play out of this. We can stop now. Again, floating barriers with razor wire, people being cut up and stuff like that. Great visuals. Great if you're like wanting to show that you're doing something about it, and people get to enjoy the cruelty of folks trying to come to the United States getting cut up and hung up on razor wire and stuff like that. It's just the sadistic nature of some people. It appeals to them. It's a blood sport. But money talks, and I think money is tired of these shenanigans. I would expect DeSantis is going to get that same conversation. Okay, so will Abbott force this thing through to the Supreme Court? It didn't look like it, but let's see what Abbott's intending on doing with this case in the Supreme Court. He's in a nightmare situation. He keeps losing his court case. That shouldn't be a surprise. But the nightmare might be because now he's getting financial pressure. And he wants the political points for defending the border, but he also wants the money to maintain his power, so to speak. Yep, there's the money. Yep. He's going to get a lot of backroom pressure. There's a lot of backroom pressure. He has to evaluate, is it worth continuing this fight? Because there's backroom deals being made, financial things that are that he's missing here. The reality is he doesn't have a strong case. And to take this up, while it scores political points, there's no value to it. And he's costing himself and his state money and support. So I don't, in this instance, if this negotiations come through, I don't think he'll do it. I think this thing might die right where it is because it's not worth the battle. One last little 4-carder. If this, or maybe I'll do a 6-carder. if this case, if Abbott does take this case, no, I'll do a challenge. Do a challenge one. Yeah, we'll do a challenge one. Him taking it to the Supreme Court. Well, no, I want to find out how the Supreme Court goes. All these people with their introverted thinking. Me, I just blurted it all out. You get to see all my contemplation in real time. Okay, what happens if this goes to the Supreme Court? How will they rule on it? I tell you, man, I'm waffling and flipping around more than a Waffle House at 3 a.m. on Friday, early Saturday morning. How will the Supreme Court rule on it? They'll take strong action. Calm after the storm, America at its best. People coming in. Let's see. How will they rule on this? I'm just going to throw the cards out there and see what I get. Look at all those emotions. Oh, how will they rule? They'll take strong action. Will they allow that to be enforced? The Star. This one's throwing me for a loop here. So which means that, are they answering my question? No, it's not. Okay, because I asked about the Supreme Court. This is what Abbott's going to do. Nope, he's going to make this his hill that he's going to die on. He thinks, he's the star defender of the United States in the American way of life. He's him. Think of him, this being him in a wheelchair, because this guy's sitting down. He's always gotten to do everything he wants to with no pushback. And he knows that we have a conservative, 6 members of the Supreme Court. And this card also came from my last Supreme Court hearing. He knows he has a conservative Supreme Court that'll support him. The problem is they're not going to. They're going to vote against him. They're going to say it's not the values, it's not American values to do this. And here's your river right here. It's not within the American values to do that. And I think they'll kick it back. They may not even hear it. I think this case will go to the Supreme Court and they won't hear it. They just kick it back. They just send it right back again. Okay, and that would make sense. That's why I'm not going to get a ruling on how the Supreme Court's going to rule on it, because they're not going to rule on it. They're just going to throw it back to the states. They'll throw it back to the appeals court, and we're done at that point. And we're done. Okay, so to me, this is going to be a net loss for Greg Abbott. He's lost twice. He's going to want to bring it to the Supreme Court, and they're going to say, not going to hear the case. The appellate courts, go deal with what you heard from the appellate courts. And that's the end of floating barriers and razor wire on the riverbanks and all this craziness. Hopefully Texas can get a more reasonable governor and attorney general in there and maybe start representing the best of America rather than the worst of America. Okay. But anyways, that concludes this reading. Thank you very much for watching through it. Thank you for supporting my channel and doing everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so that my video makes it out to a wider range of audience. To the new subscribers and new viewers to this channel, welcome. Hope you found this reading insightful, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.